Just bring her home. Bring her home safe. There's a $50,000 reward. I'm coming, honey. I'm trying. I'm doing everything I can. And I love you. Just bring her home.
Hi, hello, welcome to the Extraordinary Stories podcast. This is a small stories episode where I choose a theme or a subject and I tell more than one story in that area. So, how are you? Are you good? Are you well? Before I start, just quick shout out to a few people who've been in touch. So hello to XXX Missy XXX is the Twitter handle. Don't really know what Missy's real name is, but thank you for the shout outs and the support, and for all the people who are leaving really nice iTunes reviews and people who are getting in touch on the Facebook page and saying some lovely things about the podcast. Thank you very much. Okay, so Small Stories 4 is about fakers. People who have gone to extreme lengths to lie to those around them and indeed the rest of the world. Now, faking your own death or faking an event in your life. Have you ever thought about it? I'll admit I haven't ever thought about it. It's not something that I've ever considered. I think your life would need to be pretty bad, or you'd need to be in a pretty desperate position if you thought that the only way out of your life was to fake your death or fake that you were involved in a terrible event. It's a really weird out for people in life, I think. Some of these stories might give a little bit of an understanding of why people have thought that was maybe the only option that they had. And I'm not judging that at all. If you think that that's the only option you've got in life, I won't judge. I just think there's always a million other options before faking your own death, isn't there? There's got to be. There really has to be. The first story I'm going to tell, actually, it's not about faking death. It's about faking, or possibly faking an event that happened that gained lots of media attention. But I'll get to that in a second. Interestingly, it's not a crime to fake your own death, which I didn't know until I started researching this. I suppose it makes sense that it's not a crime, in a way, because it's your own life, so you can choose what to do with it, I guess. But then I wonder what the implications of that are when, if you fake your own death, and actually that results in there having to be an investigation, and lots of public money gets spent on trying to solve your disappearance or your mysterious death, then how can there be no liability for that? How can you not end up being liable? But I don't know. That just seems to be the way that it is. Okay, I'll stop waffling on. I'll get to the story. I will just say this before I start. With this first story, lots and lots of you will know it. It's the Sherry Papini story. So I am in no way here victim shaming, and like millions of other people in the world, if I'm wrong about Sherry Papini and actually it's all true, then I will hold my hands up and I will say, I'm sorry, I was wrong. But if you don't know this story, just have a listen to it and see what you think. Okay? Let's go.
Your wife vanished.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also the prime suspect.
I never felt that.
You never felt that.
I didn't. It never occurred to me at first that people would think it was me.
So, Sherry Papini is a Californian woman aged 34, married with 2 kids. On the day in question, her husband Keith leaves for work and Sherry goes about her day as normal. Sherry was a fit and very well maintained woman with long blonde hair, and she gets described as a super mom. I hate this. I hate that phrase. I think it comes from the fact that she was really a doting wife and a loving mother to her kids. Well, there's a million and one of those in the world. But anyway, a lot of the narrative around Sherry, a lot of the headlines in the media describe her as super mom. So Sherry and Keith live in Mountain View in California. So their house it's fairly remote. It's described as one of those houses that's kind of up in the mountains. You're not miles away from everything. They're near enough a busy road, but it's still fairly isolated. So on November 2nd, Sherry was out jogging near her home when she was kidnapped. Her husband Keith arrives home in the evening, expecting to be greeted by Sherry and their 2 sons, but he comes home and he finds that no one is there. So he goes to his iPhone and he uses the iPhone tracker app, Find My iPhone, and he discovers that her phone is about 1.5 kilometers away from their house. Now, a lot gets made of this, and I do understand this because I have the same concern. Why didn't he call the phone? Why did Keith not phone the phone before doing the Find My iPhone thing? I don't really know. I don't really know why you would do that. I just think if I came home and my partner wasn't here, I'd be immediately thinking, well, I'll phone you rather than do Find My iPhone. Anyway, that was his choice. So the iPhone is found, and what's weird is the iPhone is sitting at the end of the road, near the point where she would have been jogging, and it's sitting almost perfectly in the grass. It's got the earphones sitting on top of it, and it's got some of her hair tangled up in the cord. Now, it just looks a little peculiar because it's not sort of been thrown down on the grass. It's not sort of been looks like it's been part of a struggle. It's sitting quite perfectly with the earphones on top. So he decides to take 2 photographs of this, and he sends these. He uses these to show police where he found the phone and what state it was in. So immediately people will say straight away, looks a little bit staged. It looks a little bit odd that the phone was sitting in this perfect condition. So while I'm on the subject of photos, let's talk about the images of the Papinis. Sherry Papini in particular. If you Google Sherry Papini, if you've not seen these, what you'll find is lots of photographs of her that have been taken by a professional photographer, and most of them, really, the ones that you see online, are actually from her wedding day to Keith. Some of the later ones are when they had their kids, and they obviously got a professional photographer to come in and do one of those family photograph things. I find those photographs of Sherry Papini and Keith, I find them so creepy. They're really sexual. They're really, I don't know, they're unsettling. She's really attractive, Sherry Papini, she is, but I sort of get the feeling that she knows she's attractive, and she thought these professional photo shoots were somehow her modelling campaign. It's really weird. There's one, and I think it's from their wedding day, and he's sort of holding her, so he's got his back to the camera, but she's over his shoulder, so he's like carrying her in a way, and she's looking right into the camera, and it's just a bit, I don't know, her eyes are just a bit porn-like. It just doesn't really sit right with me. It's very odd when you look at these pictures. You can see there's a million of them online, and you can't really see any sort of Sherry Papini photographs that are like, oh, here's her without her hair done and she's just walking the dog, or here's like her in the morning, and oh my God, there's like, she's just going about her life in the way that we all document stuff on Facebook. We all do that kind of thing. There's none of that for Sherry Papini. It's all very, very staged looking. It's all very professional photography. So she's missing, and a massive manhunt ensues, and the attempt to find Sherry becomes a very public affair. Her face is seen in lots of newspapers, TV shows, and news bulletins across America. The California Department of Justice initially lists her as a voluntary missing adult, before changing that classification in response, I might add, to public outcry to disappearance under suspicious circumstances. So that's interesting straight away, because the police were not convinced straight away that this was a kidnapping. That's why they listed her as a voluntary missing adult. Now, the sheriff who was involved in this, he was quite vocal at the time in saying, I'm not sure what happened here, but I'm not saying it was a kidnapping. I will not say outright, this is what happened to Sherry Papini. So it's quite interesting, because he has stood by that opinion. Good on the man. He stood by his opinion for a long time of saying, I'm not 100% willing to say that, yeah, she was definitely kidnapped. So press around this is building and building and building. And what adds to that building is the appearance of a mystery donor. So a mystery man comes forward out of nowhere. This man just comes out of the blue. He offers $50,000 for the return of Sherry. Now, he didn't know Sherry. He didn't know her husband. He'd never met them. But he says, I was moved by the story. It seemed to me that there's a girl who, has 2 little kids and has got a husband at home, and he's crying. And I just visualised what that life was like. And I felt, let's be creative here. Okay, so his creativity is to hand $50,000. So then someone else enters the story, a man called Cameron Gamble. What a name, Cameron Gamble. So Cameron Gamble enters the story, and he bumps that $50,000 up to $100,000. So Keith Papini, the husband, the mysterious donor, and Gamble, they get together and they decide on a plan of action. How are they going to use this $100,000 to get Sherry back? So Cameron Gamble goes public. He goes to local television, he goes to newspapers, and he posts a video on YouTube, which it goes viral like instantly. It becomes absolutely huge. In this video, it's a message to whoever has taken Sherry. He says there's $100,000 here for her return if we can get her back within the next 100 hours. Okay, give us the money. So the deadline runs out. So nobody comes forward. Gamble says, I told the captors the whole world was watching. I wanted them to feel they were being hunted, that the money we were offering was so enticing they couldn't trust their own mother not to betray them. So the whole time, Keith Papini is talking to ABC News. He is appearing on TV constantly. He's crying his heart out, talking about how much he wants his wife back. He's talking about just how beautiful she was.
I thought, am I really hiking out here to look for my wife? He knew something was up, and he said, Dad, you can tell me anything. So I just said, son, Mommy went running, and she didn't come home, and we're all looking for her right now.
Your wife vanished.
Mm-hmm.
But you're also the prime suspect.
I never felt that.
You never felt that.
I didn't. It never occurred to me at first that people would think it was me.
He keeps mentioning over and over her long, beautiful blonde hair. It's interesting because this becomes a bit of a sticky point later on. So, 22 days pass. The hunt continues. The media is following this very closely. Images of Sherry have gone absolutely global at this point. Here in the UK, it was being reported. I remember social media was absolutely alive with discussion about where was Sherry Papini. On November 24th, Keith receives a phone call to say that Sherry is alive. The call comes from the police and Sherry is screaming his name in the background. So, Sherry has been thrown out of a car and been discovered at the side of the road, spotted by a woman driving down it. The woman then calls 911. Sherry is found 150 miles from her home. Now, the description given by the woman, this starts to cause problems. She says there was a woman with long blonde hair struggling on the side of the road. But we'll discover that Keith, the following day, tells reporters that during her kidnap, Sherry's long blonde hair had been cut off. Sherry's taken to hospital, but she's released very quickly. Very quickly. That's odd. He says, because he's the one who recounts the ordeal. We never hear from Sherry, so he tells us everything. Keith says she was starved, she was beaten, she was bruised. She hadn't had food in those 22 days. She hadn't been allowed to drink water. So she goes to hospital and she's out almost instantly. That's strange. So, who took Sherry? She says it was 2 Hispanic women. Okay, sure. Her husband says she knows they were Hispanic because Sherry described their voices and they always spoke in Spanish. Now, there's a weird inconsistency here because Sherry's face was supposed to have been covered the entire time, those 22 days, yet she's able to give some description of these 2 Hispanic women. So this is where it gets even more odd. In her description, she says one was young, one was older, one was fat, one was thin, one had bushy eyebrows, but the other didn't. I mean, at this point, I'm thinking, is she describing like Roald Dahl characters from a book? Like, that's the way Roald Dahl used to write people. You know, like, in an absolutely brilliant way. He used to write, one person was fat, one was thin, one was tall, one was small. It just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't, it just doesn't add up. So, back to the Sheriff Pasenko. He is just not buying this story at all. He's just not buying the story of 2 Hispanic women who took her and supposedly put her in a basement, covered her face for 22 days and left her there. In that time, Keith tells ABC News she was beaten, she was branded, and her beautiful, long, blonde hair was cut off. Now, that can't be right. It can't be right that her blonde hair was cut off because the woman who saw her in the street, the woman who actually called 911, said she had long blonde hair and it was Sherry Papini herself. So there's no chance that her hair was fucking cut off and then suddenly that woman saw it. So shut up with that nonsense. Keith says the following about seeing her release. Nothing could have prepared me for what I was about to see upon my arrival at the hospital, nor the details of the true hell I was about to hear. The officers warned me to brace myself. My first sight was my wife in a hospital bed, her face covered in bruises, ranging from yellow to black, and because of repeated beatings, the bridge of her nose was broken. Her now emaciated body of 87 pounds was covered in multicoloured bruises, severe burns, red rashes, and chain markings. Her signature long blonde hair, oh for fuck's sake, this hair again, had been chopped off. So I'm not laughing at the fact that it had been chopped off, I'm just laughing at the constant recurrence of this hair all the fucking time. She had been branded, and I could feel the rise of her scabs under my fingers. Now, all of that is really descriptive. One of the best comments I read on YouTube underneath the video of him talking is someone said, "Why is he describing all of this as if he's reading it from a best-selling novel?" And actually, there is a truth. It's very articulate in the way that he says it. And now some people just are articulate and very descriptive, but it's overly descriptive. There's something that just doesn't sit right with the language that he uses to describe it. So it said that Sherry had been thrown from a car and she had a bag over her head, and he later said that she had been screaming for help so badly that her throat had begun to bleed. Now, this is all on TV. Keith is more than happy to get himself out there and get talking about it. It's just, he's odd when you watch him. There's something inauthentic about the way that he's talking, even before she's found. When he's talking in those initial interviews, there's something very unsettling about the way that he's talking. Yeah, I don't know what it is about Keith. There's just something that does not sit right with me at all. So, what are the theories around this? So, a popular theory is that she was taken by sex traffickers. But if she was taken by sex traffickers, why was she let go? That's what I don't understand. Why would you take someone to traffic them and then let them go? I don't know. A sex slave? Perhaps maybe she was taken to be a sex slave, but again, we don't really know if there were signs of forced sex upon her body. Not really sure. There are some theories. I'm just going to read some of these, right, because they make me laugh so much. There's some theories out there. They're totally fucking crazy. Well, are they crazy? I don't know. Make of them what you will. Think of them in your own way. Okay. Theory number 1. Keith Papini staged his wife's abduction to cover up the fact he was having an affair, and in fact, he had murdered her. Now, since we've now seen a photograph of Sherry Papini alive, that one's not right. The couple had been fame hungry and had come up with a joint plot to raise money and garner publicity. That one rings truest with me, if I'm honest. I think there's something in that. Okay. Number 3. Sherry Papini had been having an affair and had given herself the injuries to possibly mask vigorous S&M sex. Okay, I'm not ruling that out. I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure that I think you would actually go through 22 days of being away from your life and a whole huge campaign around you to mask the fact that you were having an affair. Okay, and this one is brilliant. Someone says, well, she'd had breast implants only a few weeks previously, so there's no way that she would have been out jogging. Now, it is true, she had breast implants, so actually, would she have been out jogging? I don't know, I just find it really funny. She'd had breast implants, so she couldn't possibly have been out jogging. All of these things there's so many facts, and it's almost like with this story, every small detail, every tiny little detail adds more mystery. It adds more fucking craziness to this story. It's also a lot gets made of the fact that in high school, Sherry Papini was known to have had massive arguments and physical fights with some of the Hispanic members of her class. And also, she had posted something on Facebook. This is a few years before all this happened, but she'd posted something on Facebook about her hatred of the Spanish in California. So, make of that connection what you will. I don't know. Like I said, all and any of the details in this story are weird. So, where are the Papinis now? So, they left their home, they took their 2 kids, and they just upped and left that house. Sherry, well, this is all, of course, coming through Keith on TV. Keith says Sherry didn't want to be anywhere near the house anymore. She wanted to just get away from it. Okay, fair enough. So, the only known photo, really, or any sighting or evidence of Sherry since her release You can find this quite easily. It's one of her packing up the car to leave the home on the day that they decided to just up and leave. I think this was only a few days after she was back. She's wearing a cap. She's got layers of clothing on, so you can't really see much about her. Like, I looked at it and I thought, well, I don't see a broken nose that he described and whatever, but okay. So she's heavily layered up in her clothing. This is a small fact. It's probably not important to everybody, but it's important to me. They left their 2 dogs behind in the house when they left. They upped and left. Sherry, Keith and the 2 kids. They left the house and they left these 2 fucking dogs. Luckily the dogs are now safe. So a neighbour who lives like quite a distance away discovered that these 2 dogs were barking in this house and thought, what the fuck's going on here? Eventually got into the house and discovered that the Papinis had just upped and fucking left the 2 dogs. What a pair of dicks. I'd never do that to a dog. I just think, oh yeah, I know that's not really relevant in the bigger part of the story, but I still think it's pretty fucking outrageous to just go and leave your dogs. Anyway, that ends the story of Sherry Papini. So the case is, it's still fascinating. It's still being discussed. It's a kind of never-ending story. I just want there to be a film of it one day. I just want there to be some amazing... I kind of want the truth. I want the truth. I want to know exactly what happened. I don't think we'll ever know that, but I would love to know the truth, and I just also would like to see a film where Reese Witherspoon played Sherry Papini, because I think she would be absolutely amazing. So, now for a couple of short, ridiculous stories of people who have really... Fakers who have really got it wrong. I'm going to call these fucked up fakers. So, fucked up faker number 1 is Alison Matera. Alison was aged 27. She was an active choir member in her local church in Florida. She regularly attended church and was a part of the community, so she was really in there with the community of churchgoers. The problem for Alison, she didn't really want to be a part of that community anymore. She wanted to get away from it. So, how did she deal with it? Alison walked into church one day and she told them all that she had cancer. She said her treatment for cancer was beginning soon, but that this would prevent her from becoming a regular at choir. So our fellow choir members, they're totally heartbroken. They're devastated for this poor 27-year-old. So during the time when she's away, they continue to receive calls from a hospice nurse with updates on Alison's health. Now the same nurse calls choir director Timothy Paquin on January the 18th to say, unfortunately, very sadly, Alison has died. So the choir director, he spreads this information and everyone is absolutely heartbroken to discover that Alison's dead. The choir director receives another phone call, and this time it's from someone who says that they are Alison's sister and that they are arranging the funeral and arranging the body to be brought to the church for the funeral. So the choir director, after this phone call, feels an air of suspicion. He feels something isn't quite right. He says that the voice he was speaking to on the phone sounded very like Alison herself. Now, okay, it was her sister, but he says it's scarily like Alison. So he shares his suspicion with the other choir members. And the next thing he does is he calls around the local hospices, calls around the funeral homes, and he's asking about Alison, but none of them, not one of them, have heard of her. So he's thinking, oh well, okay, maybe I just got it wrong. Maybe I'm phoning the wrong place. Maybe I'm just not found the right funeral home or the right hospice. So the funeral is arranged and the day comes to bury Alison. So all of the church members gather and they realise something is missing. There is a coffin, but there's no body in it. Alison's body is not in the coffin. So then a woman who looks a lot like Alison, but is wearing a wig, arrives at the funeral. So when the choir director asks who she is, she says, I'm Alison's sister. When he asks, where is... Sorry, I just think it's so funny. Where is Alison's body? She doesn't have an answer. So the police call round to Alison's apartment and they find her perfectly well and perfectly healthy. Turns out she just wanted to leave the choir and she didn't know how to. So she had faked her own death. I mean, imagine turning up at your own funeral in a wig. Imagine turning up at I love this crazy lady. I think she's fucking brilliant. Oh, it just makes me laugh. Why would you do that? If you wanted to leave a choir, just leave. Don't tell them you've got cancer. Don't put people through that absolutely terrible period of time where they think that you're dying in a hospice and actually you're a couple of streets away living in your flat quite happily. Oh, awful. Okay, fucked up fail number 2. This is John and Anne Darwin. So again, it's a well-known story, but it is worth telling because these two, crazy. So John Darwin was seen paddling out to sea in his canoe on the 21st of March 2002 at Seaton Carew in Hartlepool, which is in England. Later the same day, John was reported missing after failing to report to work. So a large-scale sea search operation takes place, but there is no sign of Darwin. However, they find a double-ended paddle and it's retrieved pretty close to where he had started canoeing. Later in that same day, 22nd of March, the wreckage of John's canoe was found. Now, the North Sea was unusually calm and rescuers were really puzzled. They were really not sure how. How could this have happened? Because the sea was calm. There's no reason that someone in a canoe should have gotten into trouble in those conditions. Fairly quickly, a death certificate was issued stating that John had drowned, and this allowed his wife to claim his insurance, and it's alleged that £25,000 was paid. So during the years that Darwin was presumed dead, he lived for some time in a bedsit next door to the family home. He then secretly moved back in with his wife Anne in 2003. So less than a year. So that was less than a year. So for all known purposes, he's drowned, he's gone. No, he's actually living next door to his wife, to his family as well. They had kids. So he's living next door and then he moves back in. For 4 years, Anne helped to hide John. She helped to keep him absolutely secret. They had hatched a crazy scheme in which he was going to get a passport. Now this is creepy and horrible. In the name of a dead baby. Where they got this name from, I don't really know. I remember something about this being like, they went to a graveyard and they looked for like the graves of children and they found like I think this is how this came about. They found the name of a dead child and that was that was the name that they used to register him with a new passport. So Anne at this point was saying to her family, oh, I just feel like I need to be away. I'm a widow now. I need a new start in life. But secretly, what they were actually doing was they were using his life insurance money to plan a new life abroad. So they were looking to get out of the UK and looking to live somewhere else. It was when they went to an estate agent that a photograph of them was taken at this point, and this photograph was then released to the press, and people were like, hang on, I thought this guy was dead. Why is... Because she was still quite focal in the news at that point. She was still quite a... Yeah, everyone knew her face at this point. So when she's suddenly with this man, and they're in an estate agent, people were suspicious. I also suspect, this is just me wildly guessing at this, I could be completely fucking wrong. I'm also guessing that there was suspicion around this, and so actually she was probably being followed or being watched. At least that situation was at least being watched by police in some sort of way. A photograph of a couple in an estate agent doesn't just turn up out of nowhere. I mean, I could go to an estate agent tomorrow. It's not that I'm going to be photographed while I do that. There's a reason. There's a definite reason that that photograph turned up. So during the time he was missing, a tenant who had lived in a block of bed sits near where the Darwins owned met him in the street, and he said to him, "Aren't you supposed to be dead?" And Darwin said, "Don't tell anyone about this." So years later, police interviewed this guy, and he said, "I just didn't go to the police because I didn't really want to get myself involved in something." So it turns out that they had decided, the Darwin couple, they decided to move abroad. They were going to move to Cyprus. So they had got the false passport, they had the money, and off they were going to go. But, of course, police intervened and discovered that actually the whole entire thing had been a complete and utter faked death. So it's really sad now, because actually the two kids that they have such hatred for their mother, and I mean, yes, to a point, their father as well, but more so towards their mother. They just can't believe that they lived for 4 years with their mother, grieving, crying, all of that sort of stuff, when actually their dad was living next door. Now, they don't say, oh, he was blameless in this. Of course he wasn't fucking blameless. I think it was all his idea. But for some reason, it's their mother that they really resent in this story. In an interview, one of the sons says, "Dad told one nasty lie and he disappeared. But she lied for years. She kept on lying, even when the evidence was so overwhelmingly against her. She dragged us through hell. Her maternal instincts didn't kick in for a single second." Pretty fucking damning. Pretty damning. Okay, that ends Small Stories for Fakers, Fake Fucks, Fake Deaths. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I just find it fascinating because it's such an extreme thing to do in your life. I hope you enjoyed those stories. As always, as I'll always end, I'll say, if you would like to get in touch with me, you can. It's at Extraordinary Stories Podcast on Twitter, Instagram and Facebook, Extraordinary Stories Podcast. If you want to email me, it's extraordinarystoriespodcast@gmail.com. If you would like to leave me an iTunes review, that would be a really nice thing to do as well. I've got a few wee iTunes reviews now, and they're quite nice. So if you would like to leave me one, that would be really nice as well. At this point, I'm just going to say a thanks to someone called Chris Huskins. Now, I was having a wee bit of a problem previously. I don't know, any of you who listen to it, you might have noticed this. On iTunes, my podcast was sort of displaying in a really strange way. I was getting like episode titles coming through as the podcast title, blah blah blah, loads of just technical stuff, and I'm fairly okay at technical stuff, but I'm new to podcasting, so I don't necessarily know how all that works. Anyway, I reached out through a Facebook group to a guy called Chris Huskins, and this guy helped me so much. He went through all of my stuff, and he just fixed everything for me. Well, he didn't. He just gave me the tools to fix it. He said to me, "Go here, do this, sort this out. This is where to correct this mistake. This is how to fix your artwork." Gave me loads of different things, and within 24 hours, everything was fixed. So the podcast should be easier to find now in iTunes, because it was a bit of a mess for a while there. So thanks, Chris. He has a podcast and a blog called Abrupt Audio. So head over to Abrupt Audio and give that a listen. And before I go, I'll just say one more thing, which is I have started a Patreon account. So Patreon basically is a place to support anyone who's podcasting when you want, with whatever you want. So you can give the podcast £1 if you want. You can do a one-off payment or anything you can. I understand times are financially very, very tough, so I'm just putting it out there. I feel a bit awkward asking about it because I know money's tough for everyone. However, Patreon is there for Extraordinary Stories Podcast if that's something that you would like to help with or something you would like to give money to. Okay, thanks so much for listening. Okay, goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.